Hey, everybody, and welcome to the BioCare Roundtable. It's really great to have you guys back, and for everybody listening and watching, we are going out live for the first time to about 8 different pages, and we're going out to all of the radio stations, network, social media. So we're going out to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and also to Twitch. We're also going out, if you're watching on the BioCare feed, we're going out to all of their different social media. You can tune in about 8 different ways tonight. And folks, I'm Kevin Gallagher. It's a pleasure to have you here
Podemos
with us
conectar esta
tonight.
mejor.
And we
¿Vale?
are here
Si
with the
quiere que
fine
podemos
doctors
conectar
from
esta
the
mejor.
BioCare
Lo
Hospital,
que
and they are located in Tijuana, Mexico. And you can hear their show every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time here on the Truth Be Told Radio Network. And also the show replays on the Saturday morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Now, I'm Kevin Gallagher, and I am the CEO, founder, and guy who runs the radio network. And you can go to our web pages. You can check out the radio station. Go to truthbetoldnetwork.org. That's truthbetoldnetwork.org. And don't want to spend too much more time on that. I want to get right into talking to the fine doctors. And if you have questions and you're watching, however it is you're watching, what I need you to do is just go into the chat, whether you're in Twitter, whether you're in Facebook, whether you're in Twitch or on YouTube. And if you have medical questions, you have a medical condition, you have something that's bothering you, have a question about something, we're talking to some of the finest doctors in the world from the BioCare Hospital, and they will give you a straight answer. They can give you straight talk, and so without further ado, I'm going to go to Dr. Rodriguez. And Dr. Rodriguez, it's really good to see you again. And how are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing very well. It's a real pleasure
poster girl.
to be with
Me.
you. And I think we have
Ahorita ya
some
está
background
pasando.
noise, but let me take care of that.
Sure, no problem.
Avísale a la doctora Arteaga que todo lo que está diciendo se oye y que por favor
And
desconecte
folks,
su micrófono.
we'll be right here momentarily. So, Dr. Rodriguez, please
No,
continue.
I'm here. I'm already here, and I think the background noise that we were listening is gone.
Yeah,
So we can continue with the show. And
fantastic.
it's a real pleasure and it's a real opportunity, the one you have set for us, because I think it is becoming more and more important that people get involved. You
Yes,
know,
sir.
we have taken for granted our health, and we have transferred all the responsibility and everything to our doctors, and the results are right there. Results are right in front of us. We have uh, a really, I should say, really epidemic proportion of chronic inflammatory diseases
Yeah.
that are developing in our environment. And what we have to do is we have to pay attention to that. I always tell people, if you're not very old, you can ask your mother, you can ask your grandmother, and say, "Mom, how often did you see somebody with cancer? How often did you see a person with a heart attack? How often did you see a person that was diabetic? Can you remember in your workplace? Can you remember in the environment that you were? Was there anything like that around you?" And they're going to say, "Sure, I remember." And yeah, there was a neighbor in this part or something like that. Today, today is really catastrophic. Today, it doesn't matter where you turn your head, at work, in church, and anything, whatever you do, we're seeing more and more and more people. And we have fallen into a little trap that tells us that, well, you know what? When uh, when you ask the doctor, we're looking at more of these problems. Do you know what's happening? And the doctor tells us because we're living longer.
Yeah.
That's a very simple, easy explanation. And I say, well, if we are living longer, how is it that I see patients with cancer who are in their 50s or 40s or 30s? And actually, we have to say, for example, that the second cause of death in the United States among adolescents right after car accidents is precisely cancer. So something is happening in our lives that we're looking at more and more of these diseases.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, just I thought I'd interject this tonight. I thought it was very interesting. I was stumbling across some stuff online, and I found out. Maybe you'll get a kick out of this, but I thought it was very interesting because your hospital is located in Mexico. You're in Tijuana, and I found out that I always thought that the Caesar salad was something that was Italian, but I came across the fact that it was actually invented by someone in Tijuana, and his name was Caesar, I believe. And so it became it was actually invented right there in Tijuana where you are.
Well, yes, it is. Actually, it is. And you know what? The restaurant where Caesar salad was developed still exists. And you can still go and have a Caesar salad. Actually, they pride themselves about it. And they just love to do it in front of you and show it. And they will allow you to take pictures and video, whatever you want to do. It's
Yeah.
really fabulous.
Yeah, it's interesting because you'll get the origin stories on a lot of foods, and people will argue, well, no, we invented it. The potato chip is another one that's really, people will lay claim to it. And, but from what I've read, he came up with the recipe because of necessity. He didn't have something on hand, so he took what he had on hand and he threw that together, and people liked it, and it caught on, and it's a worldwide phenomenon.
Yeah, it is absolutely. Uh, but that tells you how involved people used to be about food.
Yes.
You know, we argue about is this, for example, I was reading about fats and what fat is better. This is good, this is bad, this is worse. Because fats, let's face it, is an area that has a lot of controversial stuff. You hear a lot of things about this fat, a lot of things about the other, and some of them seem to be evil, and some of them seem to be saviors. Like, for example, olive oil seems to be one of the best, and it can have a lot of effects on human health, whereas vegetables, so-called vegetables, because they're actually seed oils, like corn and this type of oil, might give you a lot of health problems. But only a few years ago, it was completely the opposite. We put in a very bad position, for example, all animal fats
Yeah.
like lard or like butter, and doctors used to tell you. I come from that generation. I went to medical school. I went to large, big hospitals in St. Louis, Missouri, in Canada, in New York City, in Europe, where doctors, and I did it myself. I cannot deny it. Uh, we were telling people that it would be a lot healthier if they had margarine
Yeah.
versus butter, because we were touting these as good fats. You see,
Yes.
and now we have discovered the opposite. But then I was reading about a conversation of a nutritionist, and it jumped to my head something that I never thought. When you buy a vegetable oil, you're putting in your food that oil, period.
Hmm.
When you use a natural fat like olive oil or like margarine or like any of these things, you're going to have a lot of nutrients. Because when you take, for example, lard, it's not only the fatty acids, it is a lot of things in terms of minerals, antioxidants, and things like that, because they're actually coming from living tissues, from living organisms.
Yeah.
So they're a lot more complex than what you get just in a bottle of corn oil or sesame oil or anything like that. It is very much complex. And now it turns out that the people who founded America were right. America ate lard up to the beginning of the 20th century. But beginning at that point, we started going for artificial, or yeah, it's a good word because artificial means that it has been manufactured in a
Yeah.
factory. Fats and shortening and all these things. And I was reading, for example, that all this came about because of the cotton. We were producing a lot of
Mhm.
cotton, and one of the byproducts were the cotton seeds. So they started getting a lot of cottonseed oil. And that cottonseed oil, uh, well, it went from industry, used to be used as a lubricant, and somehow it got to our table. And you cannot build healthy cells with a lubricant.
Right.
You need a real nutritious substance. So that is one of the big problems. Of course, everything is helped by the
Yeah.
refined carbohydrates, white sugar, white flour, but the oils are one of the most important parts of the whole scenario that we're living. And the most important thing, it is absolutely 100% within our reach and will to make a healthy choice.
Yes. And one thing that I've heard is that most doctors get, and I'm exaggerating here, probably about 30 minutes worth of education about dieting and then what a person's eating and how it affects their health. And what I'm trying to say is that they're just not taught a lot of that in school, but yet, you find out later, yeah, I guess the adage really is right. You are what you eat.
Mhm. Definitely. And you not only are what you eat, but you're also what you're about to eat ate. In other words, if you're having a piece of beef, it is very important what's the upbringing of that beef.
Hmm.
If you're going to have an egg, it's very important to know where that egg is coming from. You want to make sure that it's a cage free hen.
Hmm.
You want to make sure that it graces around, that moves around, that it has all its functions natural. You're not, they're not coming from an egg factory because in many places they put hens in a cage and they put a light on top of them so they keep producing eggs day and night, day and
Yeah.
night, day and night. That is not a healthy egg. You cannot make eggs like if you were assembling other type of thing. You need the nutrition in that egg. You need the nutrition in that hen. You need the nutrition in that cow, and in consequence, in the dairy products that you're going to get from that cow. If you don't have the quality of to take care of all these animals that feed us, then we're getting falsehood.
Yeah. And I'd like to just jump over to Dr. Javier Vasquez. I'd like for you to just take a moment to give people a little bit about your background in case they haven't seen any of the previous shows. And I know you wanted to discuss some things about chronic fatigue syndrome. So if you could kind of give us an idea about what that is, because one thing that I will say, doctor, is that there's a lot of diseases and things that I've seen come up in my lifetime that I've never heard of before. And it seems like I put on the radio or the TV and there's some new drug being pushed for some condition that honestly I've never heard of. So, what are your thoughts?
Yes, hi everybody. Indeed, chronic fatigue syndrome is a very complex condition, uh, sometimes very difficult to
Yeah.
treat. And what is more challenging in this is we don't have an exact cause for this. We feel that a virus is linked, a virus that
Hmm.
is causes mono, is called Epstein-Barr virus. Uh,
Wow.
about an average of 96% of people usually will test positive for the virus. But what makes you to develop symptoms is when you are under stress, when you are not having what Dr. Rodriguez says, the good food, having false food. Um, Also, is very important when your immune system is compromised. When you don't provide the good care to your body, definitely your immune system is going to be very weak. And this virus that usually is dormant will start producing symptoms. Commonly, this infection affects more women than men. And usually the average, uh, well, it was around age, the group of age from 30 to 40 years old when we seen the most cases, but we're seeing more and more cases at early age. And this is the reason because the virus can turn into very aggressive behavior and affect you at different parts of your body. That's why it's called syndrome, because the word syndrome means that several mm, several parts of your body can be affected. And most commonly is your musculoskeletal system. You will start having fatigue that is not related to exercise. It's a fatigue that at least lasts 6 months, and there is
Wow.
no explanation. What is said that is linked to physical activity. Usually, you will get affected your stamina. You will have affect your digestive system. You will have cognitive function like foggy brain. We call that
Mhm.
dizziness, etc. So it is a broad spectrum of symptoms in this condition.
Now, when did it first start appearing? When did you first see reports of this syndrome happen medically?
Well, the condition actually, when we hear more of this condition, was in the mid 80s, beginnings of the 90s, because it wasn't recognized as a condition. Unfortunately, most of the doctors will believe that this chronic fatigue syndrome is actually depression or anxiety, and they will load the patients with drugs that will not cure at all this condition.
Hmm.
This condition will require a multifactorial treatment based on nutrition, helping your immune system, supplementing your body, and more important, uh, rest and exercise.
That's pretty amazing. So you have doctors that were just totally misdiagnosing this, and that
Yes,
I guess caused a lot of other problems as well
mhm,
because they're treating something that wasn't going on with the patient.
correct.
That's really amazing. Let me run over to Noli, Dr. Ortega, and I know you wanted to speak to metabolic syndrome, and if you could please give us a little bit of your background, and we
Eso
can
lo
move
tienes
forward.
que.
Hello, well, my name is Dr. Noeli Arteaga. I work at IBC Hospital. I'm an attending physician here. And well, the most common or one of the most common things or diagnosis that we come with our patients that come here at IBC is to be treated for diabetes, hypertension, and well, of course, obesity. They sometimes don't reunite all these diagnosed, but if they still have some of these, I think it's necessary for them to come. Metabolic syndrome refers to several known cardiovascular risk factors, including resistance to insulin,
Hmm.
hypertension, obesity, and then, of course, high cholesterol, or what it's called dyslipidemia. Um, these conditions are related to, well, can be a genetic cause, but also the lifestyle that we do on the daily basis.
Right.
Um, Dr. Rodriguez has been telling about our lifestyle and the fats that we eat every day, and well, I guess that change in our lifestyle has been conditioning to these diagnosed to increase throughout the times.
So
Um,
why do you think, and Dr. Vasquez, and for yourself, Dr. Ortega, why do you think these types of conditions you see such a great increase with?
Well, throughout the times, the jobs that the people are having are less with less activity. They usually sit for about 6 to 8 hours in an office. Now with social media or with cell phones, it's more usual that even though you're not in the office, you still have phone calls, or they you need to do extra hours, and that causes also not to get out of your house and do other physical activity. Now with the applications, you just click or look at your phone to see what kind of food you want to get, and then Amazon brings it
Yeah.
to your house. So there's no need to be out of your house doing any activities at all.
Yeah. I call it a microwave society. You just expect to have everything done like in a couple of minutes. TV shows, everything's resolved usually in 130 or 60-minute episode. So we kind of have that same expectation. But when you get into metabolic syndrome, how does this overall affect the body? What are some of the early signs of it so that people go, maybe this is what's going on with me?
Well, that's a big problem because usually we call it a silent pathology or a silent disease. That means that it can pass a lot of years without knowing that we have this resistance to insulin, or that our blood pressure is increasing. So the best thing to do is do it as a prevention, after 40 or even before, like starting at 30. Do once a year just a general checkup. Go to your doctor, visit your doctor to check how your blood pressure is doing. If you have any family members, oh, you know what, my aunt or my mom, she has diabetes, she has hypertension. Well, you just need to measure those things, and look for those symptoms earlier.
So, how does something like this tie into something like what Dr. Vasquez was saying with like chronic fatigue syndrome? Do some of these things act together, or not,
Well,
or actually does metabolic syndrome go and affect other conditions or diseases?
I think it's not always related. You can have someone with diabetes or high blood pressure also dealing with chronic fatigue syndrome. Um, but well, they can relate because having or not having control these diseases like high blood pressure and diabetes can lead to a chronic weakness or being tired all the time.
Hmm.
Having high levels of glucose and high blood pressure can turn into foggy brain. So some of the symptoms can be the same, but not be related.
Yeah,
That's true.
incredible. Hey, Dr. Rodriguez, tell people a little bit about your hospital. Like, if people were coming from other countries, the U.S., Canada, etc., how would they get in touch with the hospital? How would they get there? What would be some of the things that they would need to know?
Yeah, I think that's a very important question. Uh, we have this idea, and this is an idea that we all share. Uh, when you have, I always tell people, I can give you a Rolls Royce. You have a real beautiful car, but then you decide that you're going to use no lubrication. You forget to take it for service. You don't change the oil. You get cheap fuel. You don't service the car as it should. And then you take it to the beach and you run it on the sand, and you go mountain climbing with the car and everything. What is going to happen? What's going to happen is that in a short period of time, that beautiful car that you used to have uh, has become a piece of junk.
Yeah.
And I don't have to tell you, we all have seen it. We all have seen people that you say, "Oh, I saw Robert. Oh yeah, I remember him. He was so good looking, so big, so strong, so everything." You would not believe the way he looks now. Why? Because they didn't change the oil. They got very cheap fuel. He didn't take care of the things. And that's exactly what you were talking about. And I like the term, this microwave society.
Yeah.
we have the feeling that we can use and abuse our body any way we can because it's going to work well anyway. And if anything goes wrong, I can go to the doctor and the doctor will fix it. He'll write a prescription and he'll fix it. Well, the sad part of the story is that yes, when you get sick, you can go to the doctor. But if you do this type of stuff, what's going to happen is your disease is going to be, in general, everything we have been talking about, something which is a chronic, degenerative, inflammatory disease. And everything we have mentioned, from cancer to diabetes, to Alzheimer's, to high blood pressure, etc., all of them are produced by common things and of the metabolic syndrome, of the uh, poor nutrition, and so on. So when these people start with all these symptoms, they go to the doctor and say, "No problem, I'll go to the doctor. He'll give me a prescription." And sure, he does. He writes a prescription. He says, "You should be taking this
Yeah.
insulin, a diuretic, a high blood pressure medication, you name it." And then you ask the doctor. This is the magic question. Okay, doctor, thank you very much for the prescription. How long should I take it for?
Mm-hmm.
For the rest of your life, which means you're stuck. You have a disease that's going to last for the rest of your life and will always probably get worse.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you're taking medication that has side effects. So after some years, they're going to give you medication to counteract the side effects of that medication.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
what is what we do here? What we do here, and I really thank God because we have more and more people every time, is no, I'm not, I have to do something with my body. Number one, the problem with modern medicine is that unless you're really critically ill, nobody pays attention. You were asking Dr. Vasquez, for example,
Yeah.
about chronic fatigue. What happened in the beginning with chronic fatigue? Did they misdiagnose? No, they didn't diagnose. They didn't care. I mean, I had countless numbers of patients sitting across my desk, crying and telling me, "Doctor, I have been sick for years. I went to this doctor, to this doctor, to this doctor." And every time I told them what was happening, they told me, "You need a vacation.
Yeah. Or it's like all in your head.
It's all in your head." And it's exactly. And 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 they didn't get any answer. Take a I'll give you something to sleep. I'll give you something to relax. I'll give you something for whatever. But the truth is, these people are sick. And now, I'm talking, as Dr. Vasquez said, the end of the 80s, the beginning of the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
But now, if you open information, yes, chronic fatigue syndrome does exist.
Yeah.
I,
You
I
know,
have,
you know what I find interesting though is that if years ago this didn't happen, but nowadays, I don't know about in Mexico, but I know here where I live in the States, you can't like watch a TV show without there being some drug pushed.
yep,
And like I was relating to you earlier, I've heard of diseases on the TV that they're talking about that I never heard of before. I can go back to when I was a kid. I didn't hear about any of these things, and maybe they were there, and maybe we just didn't publicize them as much. But I don't know. But
no,
the
no, no,
problem
no,
that I
no.
have, and the pet
The
peeve that
number,
I have,
the
is
numbers,
this.
if
Yeah,
you go to the CDC statistics, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, if you go to the numbers, you're going
yeah,
to see how all these cases have radically multiplied,
yeah,
but by many times fold. So, what is what I tell people when they call BioCare? I said, that's exactly what you need. It's in our name.
yeah,
Uh, you need to take that person's body and you have to start putting things back together. The fantastic thing is that our body is so grateful that when you start getting rid of toxins, when you start cleansing, when you start
Hmm.
changing the intestinal flora back to normal, when you start supplementing that person of important nutrients that just are not there, when you start putting high concentration oxygen in their veins, or heavy oxidative therapies like ozone, or ultraviolet irradiation of the blood, or hyperbaric oxygen, and you start doing all these things, these people start to bloom, start to function well. So much that I tell people, give me 10 days of your life and I'll trade them for 10 years
Hmm.
of healthy living. Because once you learn, once you make the changes, once you understand that your body is not less than a Rolls Royce, that it needs loving care, that it needs attention, that it
Yeah.
needs to be aware of what's around, and make healthier choices, and service the body whenever it needs service, and lubricate every joint, and lubricate every part of the body, and feed the body the right type of food, and get high octane foods, not cheap foods, then you're going to see how people start coming back, feeling better, thinking better, being more focused, because we do not understand that mental well being depends on the health of the whole body.
Yeah.
So
Very
give
much
me 10
so.
days, I'll give you 10 years.
Yeah. You know what's interesting too is when I see the ads, they're telling you to go and get this drug. Go to your doctor and have them write this drug. But you see, I'm not a doctor. You are. And the way my attitude is, you, the doctor, take a look at what's going on with my body, do the diagnosis, and then, oh, okay, but why should I go and see an ad on TV from some company saying, I need this drug because that'll make me better, and then go into you and demand that you write me a script for
Right?
whatever? I mean, to me, that's like putting the cart before the horse,
Correct. You're absolutely correct.
you know?
There are many little things, and they are happening for just one reason. And the main reason is because we don't take charge. We don't take the responsibility. Uh, and I keep telling people, the first person in command in your healthcare should be you yourself. Your doctor is your advisor, is your ally, but you should know better. You should
Yeah.
listen to your body, because our body's talk. So when our bodies talk, we have to listen. We have to do what our bodies demand. We have to learn how to take care of our bodies. We spend so much money, we spend so much time taking care of our plants, of our garden, of our pets, and that's all right. But why don't we turn our eyes a little bit back to us, back to ourselves, and say, I think I can do a lot better if I just start paying attention.
Yes,
And
sir.
that's all it needs. That's the beginning. And then you call BioCare. Let me tell you something that I'd like to tell all the audience right now. If any of you go to the social media of your choice. If any of you contact us through Truth Be Told Radio network, if any one of you call our 800 number, if any one of you want to contact us, any of the doctors, we're going to be very happy to talk to you. No charge, no strings attached, because we love to give advice. I love people that get the inspiration to say, I want to be healthier. Where do I start? You have a friend, you have a helping hand with all the doctors at BioCare, and we'll be very, very happy to help you. You just
Yeah.
call our 800 number, you just go to our website, you just go to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're going to be there for you.
Yes, sir. Hey, and I'll tell you, folks, if you're watching right now, it is what, the 17th of February Eastern time. We're around 6:35 in the evening. If you're watching us right now and you got questions, please go right ahead and type them in the chat, and I'll get them over to the doctors. I do have somebody that had texted me on my phone because they knew we were doing this, and they wanted to know a little bit more about good treatments for Crohn disease? Because you hear about that a lot, and so they were very curious about that. Who would like to answer that question?
I think I'd like to answer that question
Okay.
because that's one of the, when I started reading about it, when I started learning about it, it's one of those times where you just have to turn your eyes high up and say, God takes care of us.
Hmm.
You see, uh, the function of the gut is very complex. It's not just a tube through which food goes on the way out. It's a very complex organ. Let me begin only with one thing. People should know that the most important immune, how important is immunity? We have seen it in the pandemic. How important that is? Well, the most important immune organ in the body is the gut. Now, who doesn't love to be happy and feeling well? How does how does the brain do that? Well, among other things, through the use of substances like serotonin.
Hmm.
You might have heard of serotonin. Some people call it the good mood hormone. Well, it's made by the gut.
Yeah.
95% of the serotonin is made in the gut. And the other thing is, we know that all the cells of the body feed from the blood. We take nutrients. You're a cell, there's a blood vessel that comes this way. I take the food and the energy I need, I take it from the blood that's going by, not the gut. The gut, in its more important part, which is the epithelium, the inner epithelium that covers the inside of the gut, feeds on small chain fatty acids that are produced by the bacteria in the gut. Now,
Hmm.
how can I have a healthy gut if, number one, I was born by a C-section? When a baby goes through the vagina, it gets the bacteria it's going to use for the rest of your life. If you don't do that, you already have a problem. Then you need to be breastfed. Many people don't have it. And many people have the combination. I was born by a C section, and then I was not breastfed. Watch it. I have to make a special effort. That's one of the situations where I would call BioCare and say, look, I'm one of those people. What can I do? And we'll tell you what you can do. Well, all these things together produce a very weak intestinal tract that will start to disintegrate virtually. The intestinal inside, which is called the lumen, has these little things that propel
Hmm.
the content from the stomach to the way out. But they are close together. They're very close together, very tight together. If you look at the microscope, you cannot put anything, you cannot put a human hair between one of them
Hmm.
because they're very tight together. But again, they're fed from the by the bacteria. So if the bacteria is distorted, if it's bad, if it's very low, it has bad bacteria, because we know that some bacteria are good, some are bad, then what happens is some of these things will start to atrophy, to become smaller, thinner, and that produces a separation.
Hmm.
And then the food starts going in. And then you have the typical case where you eat, and after you eat, you feel bad, like you feel some aches and pains. Why? Because food byproducts are getting into the bloodstream. In a normal person, shouldn't happen. So you have to cleanse, to restore, to function.
Right.
And we do that. That's a treatment that we do very successful. When we have a patient with Crohn's disease, we stop all the food because when you break a bone, you put a cast so the bone
Hmm.
doesn't move. When you have a Crohn's disease, you have to stop the colon from functioning, but you have to eat.
Yeah.
But BioCare is a place where you can be fed intravenously for a week or so, and then the colon will start to heal. And then we cleanse, we detoxify, we fight the infection or the inflammation, and then we seed with good bacteria that will create a total different thing.
Yeah.
And there are countless numbers of uh, information articles on the web that tell you how a lot of people have bypassed all these colonic problems just by rebuilding the intestinal flora.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that we do very well, and I have people that are very grateful they chose to do just a little bit of loving biocare for their colon.
Yeah. Excellent. I'm going to jump over to Dr. Javier Vasquez and I'm going to ask you a question maybe a little bit different. And that is, what's the best thing about being a doctor?
Well, that's a very nice question. Uh, is the way that you involve with the patient, the way that you produce rapport,
Yeah.
the way to understand the patient, to be in the shoes of the patient. So you can understand exactly what's going on with the patient, his feeling, etc. When when I was studying medicine, that was my goal to be in front of a patient, to help the patient. Like God says, to love our patients as we love ourselves. So this is very important. So this is the way that I feel is practicing medicine, to care, respect the patient, and guide with your best of knowledge to the right treatments for your patient.
Yeah. It's important because I know for myself, speaking only for myself, is that excuse me, I can remember when I was a kid, I remember a doctor would come in and see, I'd be with my mom being a kid, and doctors would spend a lot more time, with us. And then as the years went by, I felt like I was on an assembly line, and it was like precious amount of time. And I didn't know how a doctor could really reach a good diagnosis about anything with spending that little amount of time with me. And so, that's the difference that I've seen. And from everything that I know about BioCare, that's definitely not the case. You guys take a lot of time and care with your patients, which I think is fantastic.
Yes.
And Dr. Ortega, I'd like to ask you the same question. What do you find most enjoyable about the work you do?
Well, of course, I like to interact with the patient, the gratitude that they give me when I get to the diagnose. But of course, they they like to speak to you. They like to speak about how they're doing,
Yeah.
and well, finally, you get to hear them, and sometimes that's very helpful. Sometimes even though they're very sick, if you take the time to hear what they need to say, will lead to a better or improvement of their symptoms without any medication.
Yeah. And how do you find interactions with your patients helps with things like diagnosis or in some unexpected ways?
Well, sometimes I have some cases hard to do, but I think um, saying what I said, hearing them, asking some questions, talking to them every day, I think you'll get to the diagnose.
Yeah.
It's very important to hear what they need to say, not just write down what they're saying, but to hear their need, their special need.
Yeah. To actually listen to them, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And Dr. Rodriguez, I thought I'd ask you this question. Tell me about a day in the life in the BioCare hospital.
Well, we normally, I could tell you that it's similar to any other hospital. We make rounds, we talk to people, we have a conversation with patients. I always make a little bit of fun because many times I go to the room and or I see a patient and I say, "How are you?"
Hmm.
And then I have to interject with a little situation. I say, "Remember, I'm your doctor, so this is not a polite question. I want to know how are you."
Yeah.
And that's the beginning. Sometimes they laugh, sometimes they're going to tell you. But what Dr. Arteaga was saying is very important. If you don't listen to people, if you don't listen to what people have to say, you're going to be lost. And
Yeah.
that's been one of the problems of modern medicine. You get to the doctor, and the doctor probably won't even see you.
Yeah.
Probably it could be some sort of an assistant or a nurse who's going to send you to laboratory or x-rays or whatever. And then when the doctor reviews all that, he's looking at the numbers and he's reviewing everything. And then he says, "How are you?" It is
Exactly.
exactly, should be exactly the opposite. I teach at the University of Baja School of Medicine, and I always tell my students, my medical students, I always say, you know, the best help you can get to have a good diagnosis comes from the patient. When the patient is talking to you, he's telling you every symptom, every part of the problem, and if you listen, then you're going to be able to come up with a diagnosis. So it's not going to be the lab, it's not necessarily an x-ray, it's not the MRI, etc. It is listening to the patient. Because when you listen, you know what's happening, when it began, how
Hmm.
it has evolved, what makes it worse, what makes it better. Because many times people come and say, you know, I have this problem and so forth, but I have noticed that when I eat, or I have noticed that when I go to bed, or I have noticed when I get stressed, and they start telling you a lot of things that if you observe carefully and listen carefully, you're going to be able to say, okay, this is this problem, this could be this problem, and so forth.
Yeah.
So that is exactly what we do. And then we normally sit, we're few doctors, but we normally sit and talk about the cases. Most of the time, we have lunch together. So we have time to talk and discuss each individual case and review things together. And why do we have lunch together? Why do I
Yeah.
want to talk about that? Because to me, food is part of the medicine.
Hmm.
Remember that one very important sentence in medicine is that thy food will be thy medicine. So, if to make that possible and to make it true, we have to eat the food that we feed the patients. So we go. I probably go 2, 3 times a day to the kitchen, review what they're feeding, and we have people that the doctors talk to every single day about every single patient. And we say, you know what? This patient, for example, the case you were mentioning, Crohn's disease, is on a recovery of colonic disease, so we don't want any residue at this point. So I don't want you to give this, I don't want you to do that. But the other part of the equation is I don't want people to feel they've been punished. I want people to feel that this is not a punishment, but this is a treatment.
Hmm.
But nevertheless, to make this treatment successful, I want you to eat what you like. So
Yeah.
I always tell patients, don't be shy about telling, but I don't like this. I don't mind if you tell me you don't like broccoli.
Hmm.
Okay? I'm not your mother. I'm not going to tell you broccoli is good for you and push it on you. But I'm going to then say, okay, let me look for options.
Yeah.
And then we can talk about what about arugula? You like arugula? Oh, yes, I love arugula. Did you know that arugula is a cruciferous? It's a very close relative to broccoli or to cauliflower. then you have answers. You have to have answers, patients that you're going to transfer through the food tray. You want food to come here, which is part of the treatment, but you want it to be attractive to the patient so the patient will do it gladly. One. Second, most important, they will learn how to eat for the future because we want you to start eating a lot better. That's
Yeah.
going to be a lot easier for a lifestyle change. But definitely, diagnosis is a Greek word and means get to know.
Hmm.
So you have to get to know your patient. Dr. Vasquez was talking about the rapport, about the
Yes.
communication we have between us, about the trust the patient has on what I say, the information I have about the patient, what I heard, what I learned, what I listened from my patient. It's very important because that's going to create a diagnosis, which means I know you, I know what's going on with you, so I think I have a plan to fix it, which is
Yeah.
the
Now, I have two questions that came in, and I want to throw this out to whatever doctor would like to tackle it. I have one question that came in where they're asking about what do you think about collagen supplementation? Does it really work or does it really help? Who would like to handle that?
I can.
Okay.
Well, we have four types of collagen in our skin, in our body. I mean, so does it help? Yes, it does, but depends on what kind of collagen are you trying to replace. So after 25, our skin stops to produce collagen. So that's why our skin is not elastic anymore. We start to have wrinkles. And on the other side, we also have collagen in our joints. So that's another kind of collagen that we are looking for to replace.
Got it.
Um, well, it depends on what kind of collagen. I think you should be having supplements of both um, to get your skin looking better. And also, well, with time, our joints, such as our
Mhm.
knees and our spine, start to degenerate. That is something that will happen to everyone as part of being human.
Yeah.
So, in order to decrease or to prolong this degeneration, I think we need to start supplementing on collagen.
Absolutely. And I think I'll go over to Dr. Vasquez. I have another question that came in. They want to know about the best treatment perhaps for diabetes. I know that's a big deal nowadays. You see a massive outbreak of diabetes, not just in here in the United States, but around the world. And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, diabetes is can be two types, type 1, type 2. But the bottom line here is to provide the patient first with education. Some patients, they don't really know exactly uh, what what is a good diet, what are the complications that a patient can experience with poorly treated diabetes, cardiovascular, central nervous system, etc. So the program that we have at BioCare Hospital is a program based on an inflammatory diet, specifically focusing on a diabetic patient, of course, free from refined sugars, has to be a balanced diet, of course. We are gonna uh, promote antioxidant therapy with antioxidants that helps a lot to bring down the free radicals. We are gonna use stem cell therapy, which is one of the therapies that we use with a lot of success in chronic degenerative diseases, and diabetes is one of them. Of course, we are going to help the patient to prevent complication with the use of hyperbaric oxygen treatments, ozone therapy, and very important, the supplements that will help balance the good flora in their intestines. Every patient is unique and different, so we don't have a cook recipe for all of them. This is very important. Every patient uh, requires a base treatment that we have for diabetes, but if we have to adjust the program according to their particular needs. This is very important because we don't have two patients alike.
It's excellent. And Dr. Rodriguez, I thought I'd get your thought on those two questions. The one was about diabetes, and the other one, my mind is going blank now.
Collagen.
Yeah, the
The
collagen. Thank
collagen.
you. And I thought I'd get your thoughts on that real quick.
I think the two questions, which I happen to love, I happen to love because in a show like this, we are covering with the two things one of the, I would say, some of the areas that worry me the most. One is I am getting older. Now, don't think that you're going to get older when you get 50. No, it's a lot earlier than that.
Hmm.
Dr. Arteaga was telling us that after 25, we're going to stop producing some of the collagen. Not only that, but we're going to start uh, getting rid of some of the glands that produce fat and lubrication for the
Yeah.
skin. That's why we have to start using moisturizing creams and et cetera, et cetera. So this tells us that we have to start taking care of our body. And I'm going back to my Rolls Royce. I have my Rolls Royce, it's beautiful. I take good care of it. But after so many miles, I have to begin being extra careful. It's not only more
Hmm.
good fuel and services on time or things like that. It's going to be probably it's going to need a band here. It's going to need some sort of little gadget there, etc., that I'm going to have to replace. That's what we're talking about when we talk about collagen. We're not making enough collagen. We have to start to look for supplements that will help us to produce more. The simplest of them all is vitamin C. So if you're going to take collagen supplementation, you do very well if you add vitamin C to that and some flavonoids like quercetin. Once again, give us a call. We'll go like the person that sent you the question about collagen.
What are the best
You can
numbers
call.
that? What are the best numbers that
Okay,
people can use to
it's
reach
uh,
out to you?
it's 800 701 7345, and that's good for the United States and Canada. Now, if you go to the web or if you go to our sites and so forth, or if you look for us on the social media of your choice, Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, they're going to be able to say, oh, I heard Dr. Arteaga talking about collagen. I'm the person that asked the question. I want to talk directly to her, and we'll arrange it. Today with Zoom. We can arrange a consultation at any time, and again, it's going to be no strings attached.
Yeah.
So I was telling you that about collagen. That tells us that we can begin very early to make changes so our health span is longer. We're talking about longevity here. We're going to live longer, healthier. Now, the other question is diabetes. In
Yes,
other
sir.
words, where you have a chronic degenerative inflammatory disease that's already in place. Well, normally, and that's probably one of my biggest complaints about modern medicine. Normally, we are going to we are going to treat the disease right here. That's one of the problems of medicine. You're diabetic, I'm going to give you this for your diabetes. No, there are so many more things. If you have diabetes, you probably have other health problems. So when Dr. Vasquez was saying every patient is individual, yes, because it's not the same if you're a fat diabetic than if you're a thin diabetic. It's not the same if you're a diabetic with high blood pressure or if you do not have high blood pressure. It's not the same if you're a diabetic with circulatory problems or heart disease, or than if you don't have them. It's not the same if you have kidney disease added or not. So you have to go patient by patient to say, this is what we have to do. This is how we can solve your problem. This is how we will not only handle your diabetes, but we're going to improve every single area of your body, and we're going to help you to be healthier. We want you to live longer. We want you to enjoy your life. That's what doctors are for,
Yeah.
to improve your health.
And Dr. Vasquez, do you have any final thoughts? I'd like to go around here and see if there's anything you would like to add before we go
Yes.
off the air.
Yes, we're talking about diseases in the branch of chronic degenerative diseases as well for cancer. But it's very important, and I want people who is listening to learn that we have also preventive programs, which are very important. If you have the background in the family of a cancer condition or diabetes or cardiovascular problems, just remember that we do have package available for treatment that are for prevention. We have anti-aging and rejuvenation programs in which we're going to work or offer the patient the raw elements to heal their conditions. We like to treat the root of the problem, not just the symptoms.
Yes. And Dr. Ortega, the same question.
Well, I think, well, I agree with Dr. Vasquez. We can do preventive treatment, preventive medicine. I think that is the most important things as doctors to do. Not let you present with a symptom or a sign of any disease, but to come first and evaluate yourself with us for a preventive program.
Excellent. Excellent. And Dr. Rodriguez, any final thoughts?
Well, I think I will never stop, never stop till the day I die, telling you you have most of the answers within reach in your hands. You just have to learn how. And you have friends, you have hands to help you. You have heard Dr. Vasquez, you have heard Dr. Arteaga. We'll be very happy to talk to you. We'll be very happy to examine and review your questions. Even if you're young and beautiful, I can help you to stay younger for more time and even more beautiful.
Yep.
So, beauty comes from within, and it all comes to learning how to really take care of yourself and take responsibility. Don't let anybody else tell you if you're fine or you're not fine. Listen to your body.
Now, also, let people know about your radio show that appears on the Truth Be Told radio network.
Oh, I love that one. We have a show, and I would recommend everybody to do it. We have a weekly show every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Truth Be Told Radio Network. And if you missed it for any reason, get a cup of coffee Saturday morning, 9:30 in the morning. Sit at the porch and listen to a repeat of the Friday program. But it gets even better because you can go to Spotify and search for Truth Be Told Radio Network, and you're going to have over 100 hours of programming. Now,
Yep.
I don't want you to listen to the whole thing, but there are many things that could be very important to you because we talk about diabetes, we talk about prevention, we talk about food, we talk about physical activity, we talk a lot of subjects. And some of them might be important to you, some of them might be important to someone you love, family, co workers, church members. And you can say, hey, listen to this. And it's going to be on Spotify. You just have to search for that. And again, all the social media, we're available to you.
Now, also, what I'd like to add to that also is that we just started as a network. We got heavily into podcasting. So shows like yours, Dr. Rodriguez, is being podcasted out. Now, we're not only going out over Spotify, but Anchor FM, which is owned by Spotify, Amazon Music. You can find your podcast there, Audible. Google. There's a bunch of them. Pocket Casts. There's about 6 different major sources that people go to get podcasts. And not only can you get Dr. Rodriguez's show, but every single show that's native to the Truth Be Told network, you can find there. So if you have one of the programs that you can use to grab a podcast with. If you have iTunes, for example, you can get the address that you need to pop in there, and it will automatically look for shows every hour, however you decide to have it do that. And you can automatically get these shows downloaded. The podcast will be audio only, so you'll be able to take the BioCare Hospital with you wherever you go, and you can download that to your cell phone. You can download that to your iPad, to any kind of tablet, to your computer, to your laptop, and you'll be able to listen to that on your schedule. So, say that 7 p.m. and 9:30 in the morning doesn't work for you, you can download that podcast and, like I say, take the BioCare Hospital with you. And as Dr. Rodriguez said, there's over 100 hours worth of the shows from BioCare, and you can download all all of those. So, folks, I'm Kevin Gallagher. I thank you for joining us here tonight, and you can go to truthbetoldnetwork.org. You can also listen to us over any smart speaker. Just use the wake word for an Alexa device. What you would do, what you would do is tell Alexa to enable the Truth Be Told radio network. And then after that, all you have to do is just say the A word. I got one in here right now, and I don't want to set it off, but A word, play Truth Be Told radio network, and the network will start playing. And that's a great way that you can listen to Dr. Rodriguez's show. Same thing is true with the Google speaker and the HomePod made by Apple. The Siri Assistant and the Google Assistant are both baked into the cellular phone. So a phone like this, an Android phone in my hand, has the Google Assistant in it. You can tell it, hey, Google, or hey, Siri, and you can have that, bring that show right up. Just ask for it. Folks, I'm Kevin Gallagher. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight. We'll be replaying these shows over the Truth Be Told Radio Network next Thursday and also over the next couple of weekends. So make sure you look for that, usually around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern time. Any final words, Dr. Rodriguez, before we go off the air?
No, I was listening to it. It's amazing how information now goes out in the world. So we have no excuse. There are lots and lots and lots of information that we should look for, that we should listen to, because that can really save our lives. That
Yes.
is really life-saving. So don't forget, your health is in your hands.
Yes, sir. Hey, guys, thank you so much for a great show tonight. Really enjoyed it. And we'll be again in probably another 2 months. We'll see you here again. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in and watching tonight. I sure do appreciate it. And you folks have a great night. God bless you, and see you again next time.
Take care.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
Bye.